Hello, listeners of the Art Versations podcast.
Hi. My name is. Hi. My name. Hi. My name is Broadway Classic.
Let's hear it.
Welcome back to another episode of Art Versations. Where's your joy living right now? I really hope you're feeling creative and inspired, although there's so little space for that these days, it seems like. On a personal note, I'm halfway through The Woman in the Window, a thriller novel by A.J. Finn, and it has so many suspenseful moments. I really can't seem to put it down. I would really recommend it if you're looking for some exciting reading material. Shout out to Alessia Malazzi for showing it to me. Hey, girl. Who am I, you might be asking? Who's this weird person recommending books to you? I'm Bri, like the cheese, host and lover of all things artistic. This podcast combines two of my favorite things, artists and conversations. If you put them together, you get Art Versations. If this is your first tune-in, it's wonderful to have you. Thank you for clicking on this show, and please stick around for more. Let's get to this episode. My guest this week is Madison Leonardo. She's the founder of Speaking Truth Company, an online store and blog. However, this was a little bit of a different episode. The bulk of this week's episode is centered around Madison's experience with the Ryerson Dance program. She spoke in length about what her first year was like for her, the good, the bad, the ugly. And she also told me about the steps she took to take action for change within the program. If you are a current student or an alumni or even looking into auditioning for this program, this is the episode for you. Got an hour to kill? Stick around, join us, and please enjoy episode 8 of season 3.
And also that's probably something I can stop doing if you just stop breathing down my neck all the time. And let breathe a little.
Yeah.
I would probably stop if I could breathe.
Yeah.
Come on.
Hi, Maddie.
Hi.
It's great to see you again.
You too.
This is our take 2 of recording. The universe just wouldn't let us record the other day. There were too many interruptions, Wi-Fi, fire alarms. So this was nice. We're in a different space, I think.
Yes. I feel calm. I feel like the universe is calm. We're good.
We're good. We're here. That's all we can hope for. So, today is your day off, and you've been feeling like you had some time for yourself. What did you do today that made you, feel calm or to feel good?
I think waking up on my day off, just knowing that I don't have to be somewhere at a certain time helps me just feel like I can go with the flow of the day, because when I go to work, I work at the same time every day. I work at 4, which is right in the middle of the day. So I'm usually doing my schoolwork and whatnot, and then I have to get up and go. So it's nice on my days off to just kind of flow with things and I still I'll still get stuff done, stuff that I need to get done, in terms of schoolwork and stuff. But it's nice to just not have a schedule and not have any rush, which is funny that I'm saying that, because all of during COVID, when I was not working, I was oh, I just really need to get back into the schedule. And I'm glad I'm back into a schedule. It definitely helps a lot, but it's also good to have Friday, Saturday, Sunday to not have to attend to anything urgently. So it's good.
I feel that.
Yeah.
And you can kind of schedule days off, even though you're not on a set schedule, taking that time to be I'm not going to plan anything, or I don't have to be anywhere, that's so needed.
Yeah,
great.
For sure.
I'm glad you've taken the time to sit with me today after all of the fiasco of the other day. So COVID, yes, it's been a crazy, crazy year. I wonder too, because you're
Yeah.
such a mental health advocate. Um, and I love when you post little resources on your story on Instagram or anything like, um, you know, making sure that your anxieties are in check and making sure that you're taking time to take care of yourself, I guess, whether that means sleeping in or whatever. How have you found ways to stay calm over COVID?
I mean, it's, oh man, it's so crazy. Every time I like get into it, like the topic of COVID, like in any way, I just like, my mind just goes like, what is going on?
What is
Like
this? Yeah.
some days I'll wake up and I'm like, oh, another day, you know? And some days I'm like, is this real life? Are we in a movie? Is this a joke? Is someone pranking us? Like, what is happening? Like,
Where's
this
Ashton
cannot be
Kutcher?
real. And then I'm like, no, it's for real. Like, this is happening. And like, I I my biggest thing I think for me, and I think it's so different for everyone, especially because like this is something we haven't experienced before, right? I mean, maybe I guess like there's probably some people who are still around that experienced another pandemic long ago,
Yeah.
but I've never experienced a pandemic, so I don't know what I'm doing. As most of us probably don't. But a really big thing for me is like um, remaining grateful and like just really like practicing my gratitude and like reminding myself like not in a way, I mean, I try to be careful with that because I also don't want to be dismissive of my own feelings, and I don't want to tell my internal monologue like this isn't valid because people have it worse, because
Mm,
obviously that's not true.
right.
We're all struggling in like different ways and different levels, and there's no like better or worse,
Mm,
especially with a situation like this. But I think really like focusing on the good, obviously, it kind of sounds like, you know, it sounds so, you know, everyone's like, oh, stay positive. But also, like, it's hard. I know it's hard.
yeah.
Some days I'm like, I don't want to be grateful today. Like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
And I have
It's
to
just
remind
not
myself,
working.
you know, even if I don't feel like I want to be grateful, I have to remember, like, if nothing else, I mean, I'm in a safe place. I'm in a safe home. I have a job right now that I enjoy. I still have an education. I get to see my parents, that kind of stuff. Cause like, obviously there's, like I said, it's not necessarily to make myself think like, oh, you can't feel bad because people have it worse. But just to remind myself that like, there's still so much good in what's going on. Obviously it sucks so bad. And like, there's
Mm,
never a day where I'm like, oh, I'm so grateful that I don't even care that COVID's going on. Like, it's not affecting me.
mm.
Like, that does not happen in my brain. Every day I'm like, oh, COVID. But it definitely helps a lot. And that's what works for me.
Nice. I feel
Yeah.
like, yeah, that practice of gratitude and like also like you say, like taking the good with the bad, like they're one the same. They always come together. It's never gonna be
Mm.
perfectly
Yeah.
positive or perfectly negative, you know?
Yeah.
Uh,
Exactly.
that's lovely. Yeah. I wonder too, because you want to be, this nice person. You want to be giving good energy into the world, but like you say, there are some days where
There's days.
so hard. It's so
Yeah.
difficult. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think like um, acknowledging our feelings with like, you know, this is something, it's funny because I started learning a lot about this in school in like
Hmm.
terms of working with young children. We have to remember
Right.
to like, you know, like when kids, like toddlers, for example, when toddlers are having a tantrum, we can't, you know, like parents may tend to be like, oh, like you're okay, stop crying. But I've learned that we really don't want to do that because that's, you know, we're invalidating the feeling of a really small human with a really
Mm.
like rapidly developing brain, right? So we don't want to invalidate their feelings because we wouldn't want ours invalidated. So it's interesting because I've kind of learned and started to incorporate that same mentality into like my own like
Nice.
self-talk and like
Yeah.
my self-care and stuff like that. And even with others who are not kids, you know, we never want to, you know, when a kid is like scream crying in your ear, you want to be like, please just stop. But I mean, when I'm like scream crying, like my mom probably wants to be like, please stop, but she doesn't, like she'll
Yeah.
break it down. So I think like just acknowledging our own feelings, like we said, there's days where I wake up and I'm like, I'm not in a good mood at all today. Nothing is going to change my mood. And like, that's fine. Like I can be in a bad mood and still be a grateful person and still be a good person. But I'm having a bad day and like, that's
Yeah.
fine. And it doesn't need to be fixed, because I feel like a lot of people are like, how can I fix this bad day?
Yeah. Go
And I
right
don't think
away.
it
You have to
always
fix it.
needs to
Yeah.
be. Yeah. But we don't need to fix it. Those days are valid, especially now in like everything that's going on.
When our mental health are so like
Yeah.
fragile already. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that's so nice to hear. I need that reminder of myself,
Yeah,
Just,
we all
it's
do, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you've been seeing like through your program, because you're in early childhood. What exactly is the program called?
There is early childhood education. I'm in child and youth work.
Okay.
So ECE, which is early childhood education, is more for like, I think people tend to go into that if they're like wanting to be teachers. Yeah. So my program's more like social work,
Cool.
targeted to children.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's really cool that you've learned like a
Yeah.
little bit from that.
Yeah.
And you're in class like online. It hasn't been affected by COVID too much, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm in online classes. Yeah. I mean, the only difference for me is like, I'm sitting at home instead of in a lecture hall, which in some ways it's nice to be able to roll out of bed and just like go downstairs and stay in my comfy clothes and that kind of thing. But obviously there's struggles and like it makes learning a bit more difficult because you're not getting the same interaction. But that's what it is, right?
It
We're
is what
all
it is.
kind of adapting. I mean, we really felt firsthand the Zoom difficulties last time. So I mean, we're all dealing with it in different ways. So
Yeah.
that's what it is.
It's like that Zoom fatigue too. I feel like that's really real.
Yeah. Yeah. And like I would have never thought before the pandemic that I would like talking to someone through a screen all day would feel so exhausting or more exhausting than it would feel otherwise, because I feel like we're trying to constantly overcompensate for not having that human interaction. So we're like being so much more like maybe energetic, or like we're enunciating more, like depending on the person, what might make them feel like they're being understood better. I feel
Yeah.
like we're all trying to, overcompensate. And I feel like that's kind of why we're so drained after all of it. Especially like when I'm in classes, right? I'm trying to speak like a certain way, I'm not gonna like speak like I would like having a FaceTime catch up with a friend, right? So I think, yeah, it's hard and it's draining for sure.
That's super interesting. I hadn't even thought about that. Like the performance of Zoom
Yeah.
to make up for the fact that we're 2D. Yeah.
Yeah, it's real and it's hard.
My goodness. Oh wow. I mean, also, you're at Ryerson right now,
Yeah.
but this isn't the program that you immediately chose.
Correct.
So I was wondering too, because you reached out to me and you said, I have this experience with the Ryerson Dance program, and I want to talk about it. And I thought, well, great, this is the perfect platform to do this. A lot of people who listen to this might be auditioning for Ryerson or thinking of it as a school. And, I finished the program, but there's a lot of weird things about it and not always the great experience. So I don't know. I don't really know how to start. I guess maybe I just want to ask, where in your first year did you feel like it wasn't a good fit?
In a weird way, I want to say right away.
Okay.
But I don't know if that's true. I think like, my view is probably a little bit skewed because of my own negative experience, which I think is normal. And I try to be, like I try to look at it from like an outside perspective as well, because obviously like I know people who have gone through the program and have had, like there was difficulties, but overall had a positive experience, which obviously that's valid as well. But for me, I think I think the issue was that it sounds, I guess, weird to say, but the energy,
Hmm.
um, I don't know, something felt off.
Hmm.
And I never, like, before being put on probation, I never thought maybe I'll drop out. Like, I never thought it, but I was always like, oh, like, I definitely am not like happy with this.
Hmm.
But in my mind, that like wasn't an option. I was like, no, like, I'm not going to drop out. I'm not going to leave the program. But, and I don't know if that's kind of like because they make it so like almost like you're weak if you don't make it through the program. I was like, no, like, I'm not going to do that. Right.
Hmm. Hmm.
But
You want it to
eventually I was
stay
like,
and stick through
yeah,
it
like,
almost. Yeah.
exactly. And eventually I was like, what am I doing this for? Like, to make them, like, to prove them wrong? Like,
Hmm.
do I really care that much? My parents are going to spend this much money just so I can prove these people wrong. And like, I'm miserable every day? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
So
No.
I think it definitely took some time, but I think like right from the beginning, I don't know. I think in a way it could have been, I think I could have stuck it out and it could have been an okay fit at the end of the day, but I just don't think it was worth it for like how unhappy I was.
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
feel like that started kind of right away with what they instill in you and right in the beginning of first year, you know?
Yeah. I know what you mean completely.
Yeah.
And the word probation, it like it feels like a jail. Like it feels like you're stuck in this like penalty box of
Yeah.
being like, you know, if you don't do something about this, you're never going to be a dancer. Or, like all of
Yeah.
these sort of walls they put up in the first year.
Mhm.
I remember first year was probably one of my worst years as well. Like it just, I had all of these past experiences of being like in competition and everything, which, you were as well. And then you get to this place of like ballet every day and, no performances the first year. So you're just training your ass off. Like,
Yeah.
what is this even for? Like, I felt so uninspired.
Yeah. Which I feel like a lot of people, I feel like I've never, even people who have had a positive experience overall,
Mm-hmm.
and this is just purely assumption, but like I feel like even those people would say that first year sucked and like it
Yeah.
was horrible for them, you
Yeah,
know, like,
probably.
and I just feel like it's such a, I don't know, I feel like it's almost like uh you win some sort of metaphorical trophy if you get through first year, but like for what, you know, like to
Yeah.
endure all that like unhappiness and like discomfort, and I don't really see the point in it,
Mm-hmm.
you know, because I feel like it's just like I said, a metaphorical trophy. Like, what do you get from it? You know, like you get to say that you like stuck through it. Like, I don't know, right?
Yeah. You bled through it.
Yeah,
Doesn't seem, and like you say, like for your own happiness, to sacrifice your own happiness, it doesn't seem worth it. No,
yeah,
not
it's
at
not
all.
worth it.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
I'm wondering too, like, I don't want you don't have to go too much into detail, but like the interview process with the teachers, like,
Hmm.
um, did that feel toxic in some way? Did they say something that, put you in an unsafe place? Like, because that's a big moment too, that first
Yeah,
interview.
yeah. I mean, this is something I honestly I feel like I could go on and on and on. Like I could,
Please do.
like just there's so many things wrong.
Yeah.
Like it's honestly, I don't know how this program is still legally running the way it is. Like,
Mm.
I feel like there's so much like blatant mental abuse to these young people who are coming usually right out of high school. And like, that's a delicate time, you know? And
Mm.
I feel for everyone who goes into first year and like, I, and again, I don't want to sit here just like bashing the program. I was like, there is 100% so much good that could come out of it, especially training wise. Like, I think like actual, like talking about the physical dance aspect. I
Yeah.
mean, they obviously train amazing dancers. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. I
But
agree.
what are the sacrifices we're making to train these dancers? You know, like, is it worth it? Is it right? Is it ethical? Because I would argue that it is not at all ethical. Like, honestly, I really think that the best way for this program to like proceed and continue to train good dancers and artists and good people is like they need to kind of knock it down and start from the ground up and reevaluate the way they're doing things, because it's 2020, it's a new world, it's a very different society from when this program started, and it hasn't changed at all. It hasn't changed with society and with the world. And I mean, that's a huge problem in itself, because you have like the rest of the world that's so rapidly changing, and it's just this little secluded area that it feels like nobody else can touch and nobody else can change it, and it's just going to stay the same, and you just got to deal with it. And I feel like that's wrong, because, you know, like I've talked to so many people who say it's like almost like it's a thing that if you don't go into Ryerson with like some sort of like mental health struggle, let's say, then like you definitely leave with one. And I'm like, how terrifying is it to know that that's a thing? Like that's, and if I were like the director of the program and I heard that, I would be like, oh my God, we need to change this. Like that would like, you know, spark a light bulb in my brain and be like, we need to do something. Like these people are not okay.
Some kind of action.
Yeah, some sort of action, anything. Because I feel like it's been so long that people have been not complaining, but sort of like realizing these things that are like not really right within the program, and like the way they talk to students and the way that they run like the structure of the program with like, you know, first year there's this many students because, you know, the university still wants that money and they still want a certain amount of students to come in, but the teachers don't want to work with that many students, so they have to get rid of half of you. You know, like you go in being like, well, there's a 50% chance that they only wanted my money this year. And exactly. And I for me, it was like the second I walked in, they had a preconceived notion of me, and that stuck with them. And I don't think it was necessarily that like they didn't like me as a person, but it was like they saw that I was more timid and quiet and small physically, and like, you know, they made a huge thing about the fact that I had a boyfriend who was in the program in upper years, and
they made a big deal about that.
The amount of times that they would say to me like, are you sure you're not just here for him? And I was like, okay, so you think
what?
you think that my parents are paying this amount of money so I can be close to my boyfriend? Like,
I'm laughing because that's ridiculous.
they said that to my face. Like,
wow.
It's and I'm like, so you know, I was like, there's nothing that I can do to make them believe otherwise, because they have this in their minds and I can't change their minds. So it came to a point, and it was like when I realized that, I was like, okay, this is a waste of my energy, because I'm giving and giving and giving and like literally exerting myself every single day, and like to the point where every day I was like, there's nothing left. I'm a shell of a person and I can't function. And it still wasn't enough, right? So like there was no use in continuing, because I knew that that wasn't going to change. And it's like at that point I was like, okay, so what happens with my education and my career path is completely out of my hands, because if they decide they don't want me anymore, then like they don't want me anymore. I have no say. And
they've
like,
made that call
not okay either,
to like put you in a box.
And there's nothing.
It seems,
nothing you can do. Yeah.
And that's so tough, because you're coming here, you're like eager to learn, you've got 4 years, you know, supposedly ahead of you to change or to make these growth milestones or whatever it is. And for them to, you know, label you and to keep you as something that maybe you just aren't, maybe they just don't know you, you know, like that feeling.
Yeah, I think that's sort of like for really my whole time there, I was like, they honestly just have no idea who I am. Like they have like not the slightest clue. Like they've
because
never
there's
really
so many people in class, right? I felt that too. Like
Yeah.
Felt
And
like I
like
couldn't
you,
join.
yeah. And like you only feel like I feel like a lot of people, even by fourth year, it's like, okay, obviously they know you well, but it's like, do you really know me as a person even by
Yeah.
fourth year? Like, I don't know. And I get that it's hard, I can't imagine. Um, I know that they take on a lot, and I know that it's difficult. Like the position that they're in, I can acknowledge that and like sympathize with that completely. But I think that that's where like the changes for like how they facilitate the program that needs to happen, because it's going nowhere. And like
Yeah.
it's just year after year after year, same thing is happening. And
Mm-hmm.
I just, yeah, like I think the entire class feels like that in first year. They're like, do they even know my name? Like, do you even recognize me? If you saw me on the street, would you know I was your student? Probably not. And I
Yeah.
just feel like it's so sad because, like, especially coming in, like I said, right out of high school, and like it's hard to begin with going from high school to university, no matter what program you're in, no matter who you are or what you're doing, it's a transition and it's hard.
Yeah.
So like it makes it 10 times harder because you're like, do you see me? Do you think I suck? Do you hate me? Do you want me out of your face? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I
You
really
won't.
don't know.
Yeah.
And they're so, I felt like it was like they were up here and like way above my head, and I was like underneath the floor. So they were so unapproachable too. So I was like, I can't even be like, hey, do you see me? Am I doing okay? Is this
Yeah.
terrible? Can you give me some feedback? No? Okay, I'll just go back to the back, because there's definitely a power struggle. Um, and I think they use a lot of like, obviously a lot of it is like fear tactics with probation thing. And like, in first year, the amount of times they're like, oh, well, don't forget, we can kick you out. Don't forget, you can go
Yeah.
on probation. Don't
Yeah.
forget, don't forget. I'm like,
There's
oh,
that
trust me, I didn't
threat.
forget.
Yeah. It's
um,
like we
yeah.
have that
Always. And
power
it's
over
always
you.
there.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
I even like I have a vision of watching first year when I was in like third year or something. I was watching, there was a first year class in one studio and a fourth year class in one studio. And I was kind of going back and forth just because I was watching. And the faces of the first years, like everyone had red face or like a level of stress. I could just feel it. And then you look over in the fourth years and there are people sitting down. There are people like doing, not sitting down, but like doing exercises or something that they need to do for
Yeah.
themselves. Like just completely separate ends of the world in terms of the
Yeah.
discipline that they need or how they come across to the teachers. And I think I agree with that, is that like that first year is so stressful. It's just not fun. So
Yeah.
I can't imagine.
Yeah. That would have been so interesting to see, because it's true. Like you can feel it and you can see it, even not knowing. Like if you don't know which class is which, you will know by looking. Like
You just tell.
I don't know. And I feel like it's good that by fourth year, third year, even maybe even second year for some people, like once you get past first year, you feel a little bit more comfortable. But I also feel like for some people that never happens. I feel like some people who are timid, people who have like trouble with authority and, like really make themselves small and they don't want to confront authority figures and stuff like that. I feel like even by fourth year, they don't really fully come out of their shell. And I just feel like that's not the kind of environment that lets artists like sort of flourish to their full potential. And I feel like that usually happens after they're out of the program. And I feel like that's sad because that's kind of what you're there for.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's unfortunate, and they're almost like they think they think they do all of this for the benefit of the students, but I think they're wrong. I think there's way better ways to do what they're trying to accomplish, and way healthier ways. Like at the end of the day, we're all people, and I feel like especially in first year, you don't feel like a person, you feel like a number. You feel like
Yeah.
just a thing that's there, and they are like these big scary people who are scolding you all the time and watching over you, and
Yeah.
it's just I don't even it's just so crazy. And I wanted to get back to, I think you asked me about interviews, and I just
That's
like
okay.
started on and on.
It's all good.
But in terms of interviews, I think that that is also like, it's just huge power trip, I think. Like, I don't think that in any circumstance, and this is also just like my personal opinion, obviously, like there's people that are going to disagree, but I don't think that in any circumstance, in any program, there should be like three authority figures on like one side of the room who are like speaking to like a student. I just feel like that in itself, even if it's positive, it's so I I find a huge problem with that, because I don't know, I don't really find that in any other program. So like, why is it okay in this setting? And it's intimidating. Again, even if they have positive things to say, it's intimidating. You don't want to speak up. You feel like you can't. It's three against one, like even if they're not actually against you,
Yeah.
you feel that way.
You just like
And
sit there and you
I
take
think
it.
you take it. Yeah, exactly. And so you have no voice. You're not really like a person with your own views and feelings and thoughts. You're just there to listen and to be told what to do, and to be told what you need to do better. So even in a way that like they say, interviews are, so you can have feedback, so you can improve and whatnot. And I do think that, people who do get their feedback, and like people who are in that sort of environment, or even people who thrive off of that sort of environment, there are so many people who like be pushed and need to, they thrive off of the like competitive nature and the like power dynamic. There are more people who just get smaller and smaller in that setting, and I think that it does nothing but hinder their progress.
Yes.
And also harm them.
Yeah. Why would you want to make someone feel small? Like you say, even though they are one of 45, sometimes more, at first years, like they auditioned, so they want to come to this program with an opportunity to shine or to learn and be seen. Be seen. Just be seen. Like, tell me that you see me, because I don't know at all if you have any attention to give me, because you're running around thinking about other people. Like there's it is weird that there's such a big class, but I wonder if it's because of financially, maybe they need to accept more people to keep the program running. Maybe that's it. I've thought about that. But yeah, first of all, I do want to say, not first of all, but I do want to say thank you for, your honesty and your, radical vulnerability with this, because it can be very scary to talk about. So I appreciate that. I do. I think there's a bit of a Zoom lag.
I think it's taken me like, can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Yeah. I think there's just like some pauses in between.
Yeah. Lagging. Yes. Yeah, I think it's taken me like right out of the program, not out of the program, when I dropped out of the program, I was like, so what happened basically, my experience was I was put on probation first semester, which I was so also frustrated with, because I quickly learned that there's, in any other program you can be put on probation, but that's when your GPA is like lower than like 1.8, I think. And my GPA was pretty high. And so I was like, I felt so like bad about myself, because I was like, I've been working so hard all semester, and like now I'm put on probation, and like it felt like it didn't really line up. Like it didn't make sense for me to be on probation, because I didn't meet the requirements to be on probation. So one thing is that like this program has its own set of rules. They can kind of do all kinds of things that no other program, no other place would be allowed to do, but they just like do whatever they want. And I think the issue there is like, so the head of the program, there's no one overseeing that person that has a third eye into the program, you know? So the highest person that actually sees what goes on is the head of the program. And that person's not going to make changes if they think what's going on is okay, if they are okay with the way the program is being run. So there, in my opinion, there needs to be a third party that overlooks that, but is also unbiased, because I think that's a big part of the problem and a big part of why things aren't changing. And so, yeah, so I was put on probation. I was obviously like, I was so sad. And I was like, first year, like, this was my first experience in university. And I was like, what's happening? Like, I'm literally like working so hard. I don't know what else to do. And the thing that really like got me was all of their corrections and comments. It wasn't on my dancing. It was on like my mannerisms and like being like so timid and that kind of thing. So it was like, they said to me on multiple occasions, you dance too anxiously. And I was like, well, yeah, like I'm a really anxious person. Like, I'm sure that comes through in my movement and my dancing, but like, why is that such a bad thing? And like, also that's probably something I can like stop doing if you just like stop breathing down my neck all the time and like let me breathe a little.
Yeah.
Like, I would
Yep.
probably stop if I could breathe.
Yeah.
Like, come on. And so it was like, I was like, there is nothing I can do here because it's not based on like my technique or like anything like that. And it was like, you're not progressing quickly enough. And I was like, because you're not giving me a chance. Like I have no room to breathe and grow. And so if you just give me a chance and give me some room, like
to actually breathe.
Yeah. And yeah. And like, another thing is I was accepted on the spot when I auditioned. So that was another kind of thing that I was like, when I was put on probation, I was like, whoa, like how did things get so like turned upside down? Like at first, like they clearly really liked me. So I was like totally thrown off guard. And they always make it seem like, oh, if you're going to be put on probation, like you'll know it's coming. But it's difficult to know because like they kind of like scold everyone in class, you know, like they're very general from day to day in class and be like, you guys are not working hard enough today, right? So like, how would I know if that was directed to me? So I was like completely thrown off guard. I was so upset. And over Christmas break, my mom was like, it's fine. Like you can do like, I got like outside training over Christmas break. And like, now that I'm looking back on it, I'm like, it was great training that I got, but in terms of like being on probation, it wasn't going to do anything because it wasn't about my dancing. It was about me. So that was kind of like, you know, I was doing what I thought was going to change things, but in reality, like now looking back on it, I'm like, nothing was denied. So it was really hard, but going into second semester, I was like, okay, like this is fine. Like it's one semester probation. Almost everybody apparently gets put on probation at first. So it's fine. I'm fine. A ton of my friends were in the same situation. And so I just kept pushing. And at first they were like, you're doing great. You're doing a lot better. This is really good. So I was like, okay, great. And so I kept going because I'm someone who like, if you give me that encouragement, that's all I need to know that I'm doing the right thing and I'll keep doing it, you know? So I kept doing it and here we are back on probation. And
that's so discouraging.
Here comes like the second meeting.
Yeah. Like when you've gone over Christmas break and done like outside training on top of all of the, you know, money that you're paying for this program to then come back and they say the exact same thing. That's so discouraging. Yeah. Yeah.
It was like a punch in the stomach. Like I was again, like, what did I do to deserve this? And again, it was like, like, it's just not for you. Like you're too anxious. Like maybe this career path isn't for you. Like it's very stressful. Maybe you can't handle it. And I was like, why can't you leave that decision up to me? You know, like
Yeah.
I know what I can handle. I know how to handle my stress and anxiety and whatnot. So like, why do you think it's okay to make that decision for me? Like, I'm fine. Like, I obviously I was stressed, I was overwhelmed, but going into second year, I feel like I would have been a lot better because it wouldn't have been first year anymore, you know? So I would have been like, okay, now I can focus a little bit more on my dancing and not so much on being kicked out every 4 seconds.
Totally.
So yeah, so I was put on
you.
probation again. And I had multiple meetings with them. The first meeting I had, when I got my actual report, I was just like a disaster. I was just like crying and hyperventilating, and they were just like, sorry. And I was like, oh, okay. And I just left, and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what's happening. I don't know what to do with myself. And so then I sat down with my mom. I wrote out a list of like all the things I wanted to talk to them about and question and be like, why did you tell me I was doing better and then put me on probation again? Like, I'm confused and I need answers. And
good for you
so
for
I had
making that
another meeting with
list,
them.
you know, because then you come with something concrete to
Exactly.
be like, these are the things that are, instead of just showing up and being like, what the hell?
Exactly.
You know? Yeah.
Because like in the first interview, I was so caught off guard. I was so upset that I couldn't think of all the things that
you
I
don't know
wanted
what to
say.
expect completely.
Yeah. So I went in with like a strong list of things I wanted to talk about, and I said it all, and they just kind of kept saying like, yeah, like it's just not for you. Like, it's not for you. And, you know, I mean, it would have made more sense to me if it would have been about my dancing, my technique or whatever, you know?
Tell me something that like you're teaching me to do. You're not my psychologist.
Exactly.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. And so from there, I was like, okay, you've given me no actual reasons. And so I'm going to appeal this process. And so I went ahead and did that. And how it works is the first appeal goes straight to the head of the program, which obviously I wasn't expecting that to be overturned because she was the one that made the final decision to begin with. So it went further. It went to the chair of the program. And I believe what happens is the chair of the program meets with the head of the program and they discuss. And so it was still not approved. And then it went to the dean of FCAD.
Okay.
And he had me come in and he emailed me being like, I am so sorry for your experience and I want to hear what has happened and I want you to tell me what's been going on. And he's like, not in a way, he's like, I don't want to hear like your side, their side. I just want to talk to you and like I just want to hear your experience. And he's like, no pressure, of course, but like I'd really like to hear you out.
That's really nice. Yeah,
it was really great. And I was so defeated at that point that I was just kind of like expecting it to not go anywhere. And I was gonna be like, oh, whatever, it is what it is. And so I met with him and we had a really long discussion and I told him like all of my experiences in the program. And he basically sat there in awe and he was like, this is horrible. He's like, how is this happening? How is this program functioning this way? How did I not know about this? So he kind of, I believe what happened was he ended up overturning my appeal. So I was then re-enrolled into the program.
Okay.
But I then decided I didn't want to go back. Yeah. And at that point I was just like, it feels good to kind of like get what I knew I deserved. But at the end of the day, I didn't want to go back to somewhere where I was going to be treated a certain way because they had these preconceived notions. Yeah. So at that point I had like re-enrolled in my program now, and we were in touch for a while afterwards, and he was planning on putting some stuff in place to kind of like help the program facilitate change. And I think he ended up, his term as dean was over. So that really sucked because then we had someone new, and then I think the plans kind of just fell through, which is really unfortunate because I think some really positive change would have come from that. I mean, he said the faculty would have been sent for sensitivity training, which I think would have been such a great thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if nothing else, they just need to be a little bit more aware of the language they use,
Mm.
the things they say, um, the way that they facilitate these like interviews and assessment classes, that kind of thing. Like, if only one thing could change out of that, I would hope it would be their language that they use
Mm-hmm.
because, it facilitates such, like, honestly, it causes mental illnesses. Like there's no
Yeah.
other way
Yeah.
to put it. It's triggering.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. I just don't think people should be spoken to that way. I think it perpetuates eating disorders, all kinds of things, like
Mm.
so many different things,
Mm-hmm.
and it harms people. So I think that could have been a really great thing that would have come from that. Unfortunately, his term was over.
Yeah. So just, yeah, you just
Yeah,
missed it. I mean, like, look at you, like you're paving the way, you're making things change, you're putting it into action, and then it had to change.
yeah,
It changed, but
yeah. It
but
sucks.
maybe that just even you coming up and saying these are the things that need to change. These are the things that I felt
Yeah.
as one of your participants, as one of your students, and everyone matters.
Mhm.
Maybe that has changed something in the
Yeah.
teachers
I
or in
think
the program.
yeah, I think at this point the faculty is aware of the issues. They're much more aware of the issues that exist. So it makes me a little bit more frustrated knowing that, like, they know so well what's going on and they're still not doing anything. But I also recognize that with COVID going on, there's a lot to handle.
Yeah, it's with the
Um,
adapting and stuff. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, I see.
obviously not that
Hmm.
it's an excuse of any kind, but I just really hope that changes will be made in the near future. And like right now, I'm in a focus group too that I think you're in too.
Yes,
So
I was gonna
I
mention it actually. This is great.
yeah,
Okay.
so I think that that's our best bet with facilitating change right now because
Hmm.
with something like, let's say, signing a petition with so many signatures, they're going to have to do something.
Yeah.
With so many people coming forward, they're going to have to do something. So I think that that's a really positive thing and that can go in a really great direction, hopefully.
Just for some context, every Sunday or so, not every week, but Sundays, if you are in the program, if you're in Ryerson or if you've come from it, if you're an alumni, there is a focus group that is run by Sadie Sigriff and Sophia on Torivos. I'm going to butcher her last name. I'm so sorry. And it's just a space for talking about our experiences, just kind of like what we're doing right now, you and me. And I've only been at one of the groups just because I've been busy on Sunday nights, but I, like you say, I think it's a positive thing because it at least puts the conversation into
Yep.
their hands. We've
Mhm.
talked about this. We have a list of things. We sort of go through different topics every week. And, it's not to be like, you suck. We are, we're the
Yeah.
people that want to stand up against you. But it's like, let's actually talk about this. Let's discuss it. And I do believe
Yep.
the head of the program has been open about hearing it. So that's really great,
Yeah. Yeah, I think so too. And I think, yeah, that's the first step.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for that. It's very therapeutic for me to hear about it because I still am
Yeah.
processing it. It's been 4 years,
Yeah.
so
Yeah. I feel the same.
yeah. Well, and your sweater too. I just realized your sweater says mental health matters, and
Yeah.
that's perfect. That's a
Yes. There's
perfect.
it on the back too.
Oh, nice! Look at that.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
it's very important, and again, like I really appreciate just the honesty that you
Yeah.
have.
I'm glad I have somewhere to kind of talk about it. After I was so not ready to talk about it for a while after, and I was like, I'm just gonna block it out of my memory and pretend it never happened.
Mm.
But now I'm at a place where like I'm like, people need to hear this, and something needs to happen with this. So I'm glad that I have this space to kind of talk about it.
That's great. Yes. Well, we only have like a couple minutes left, but I wanted to talk a little bit as well about your blog and your store and your company, Speaking Truth. Speaking, but it's also with a hyphen or not a hyphen, English. a bracket over the P so that it's Seeking Truth Company. I love a good pun on the Art Versations podcast, so
Me
absolutely
too.
love that name. Let's talk a little bit about, you have a store where you sell handmade products, which are beautiful, and there's a fall collection right now. Is that right? Of like earrings
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. But then you also have this blog where
Yeah.
you can open up about, your mental health and you talked a little bit with me in our last session about how you want to use your platform for good or something meaningful, something that can help people, to be an influencer, but not in that weird fake sense.
Yeah.
So yeah, tell me a little bit about how you came to start this company.
Yeah, I think, well, it started with the blog, and I never really had any intention of making it like an online store or anything like that. It was really just kind of like an open journal for me. I find a lot of like peace in openly sharing my experiences because I find like more than wanting to like heal my own issues, I want to heal other people's, which is obviously like, there's good and bad in that. Um, but I find like it really helps me to kind of share my experiences and put them out there. Because if it can, even help one person just be like, oh, you know what, someone else feels this and I'm not crazy, because that in itself does a lot. Obviously, I can't heal people purely through that. I wish I could, but
It
if
helps.
it helps, then like
Yeah.
that is great and makes me feel great. So it just kind of started with that. And yeah, like the name kind of, I guess, speaks for itself. Like in my blog, I'm speaking my truth, but also sort of seeking truth in the sense that like I kind of, you learn about yourself the more you talk. Like when I'm talking or when I'm writing, even in this setting, more things are coming out than I thought I knew or thought I felt, right? So kind of that kind of applies to like seeking truth. And yeah, like over quarantine, I was bored as we all were and just started like, I'm a huge like arts and crafts and like hobbies
Very
person.
cool.
So yeah, I was just like, oh, like let me try and make some clay earrings like for myself. And a couple of people were like, oh, like are you selling these? I was like, sure, I can be. So it just kind of started through that and just kind of something I do for fun mostly and like as a creative
Nice.
outlet.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Keeps you, creatively active, I guess, yeah, to have your
Yeah.
own little platform and how you want to present things. And because
Yeah. And I
also
like
you're
to
in
have,
school, so
yeah. Yeah. And going from dancing every single day since I was like 2 years old to not dancing, I was kind of like, what? So, okay. So what do I do? What do I do here with
where do I put all
myself?
this energy?
Um, Yeah. And I found for a very long time after my experience at Ryerson, I didn't want to dance. I was like, nope, no more dance for me. Dance is canceled from my life. I got over that after like a year or so. And so like I still, like some days I wake up and I'm like, oh, I feel like my body needs to move. And so I'll move my body. Some days I'm like, I feel like I need to be more creative with my mind. So I'll write. Some days I feel like I want to be more creative with my hands. So I will paint or make earrings.
Oh,
So
that's
it's just really
wonderful.
nice. Yeah. So it's just really nice to have like ways to like release the energy because
Yes,
also creative energy, if I have too much of it, it turns into anxious energy and I just don't know where to put it.
totally. Yeah,
So it's
I
really
relate to
good to
that.
have, yeah, like, and it's such a weird feeling and it's a really positive way that I've kind of learned to like I never used to be like I never was really like a painter or like a drawer or anything like that and I'm not like great by any means but like I just find it fun to like
Yeah,
paint or like I'll do like coloring pages sometimes. It just depends how I'm
same.
feeling.
Oh, I
They're
love
great.
coloring pages.
They're
Yes,
really great for a
yes.
certain type of anxious energy, really calming. And so like I have really enjoyed opening myself up to other art mediums and not putting myself in a box, because for my whole life I was like, no, I'm just a dancer. So in a way, my experience in not dancing for a really long time helped me find other ways to be creative, which is really nice.
Totally.
So, yeah.
That's so wonderful to hear. Oh, just because I feel like, you know, people are turning to art as a therapy, as a thing to escape from COVID and escape from this crazy world that we're living in. And
For sure.
I'm so glad too that you were able to find, you know, your love for dance again after such a weird and very toxic environment, to like now realize that you can move on your own. You don't need no teachers. You don't need, you know, you have yourself, and that's all that you need to dance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
so
for
wonderful. Sure. Oh, it's like, it literally just makes me so happy and warm inside, because I know that feeling of like, I have so much energy, anxious. I'm, you know, I'm worried about this virus. I'm worried about my job. I'm worried about this. Just let it out. Write, like you say, color, paint, whatever you need to do. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, we've come to our time, and I just want to say that I really do appreciate you opening up about your experience with Ryerson, and you know, and I don't think it's in any negative way. Like you've expressed it openly in a way that feels kind of neutral. Now you can go on with your life, but it happened, and someone who's listening to this, you know, can form their own opinion on whether they want to go to the school or not. And maybe there have been changes, and I haven't been, you know, at school in a while, but maybe it can be a better environment for all.
I hope.
Yeah.
I hope it can do good things for dancers.
Yes. Now I want to give you a chance to plug anything that you have going on. Please plug your website, whatever it is. The mic is yours.
Okay. Yeah, so my website is just Speaking Truth Company. Yeah.
If that's not the link, I'll put it down below. Don't worry.
Yeah, I'll send you the link, because I'm like, I'm gonna give false information. They're gonna be like, where's this website?
It's all below.
But like, you can find pretty much a link to anything, like from my main Instagram. Yeah, my right now project is like Christmas gift baskets. Just to give myself more things to do. Like my mom was like, when do you have time for this? And I was like, I'm gonna make time. So I'm now knitting blankets and making candles.
Lovely.
But it's really fun and festive. So yeah, I'm doing that, and yeah, always like putting new stuff out on my blog. I've been a bit quiet because like school is like taking over. But definitely gonna put a bunch of stuff out. Like once I'm on Christmas break, I'll do like blog overload so people can kind of binge. But yeah, that's it.
That's wonderful. Well, all of the links will be below. That way you don't have to spell them out for us.
Perfect. But
go
thank
check
you so
out.
Much.
Oh, you're so welcome. It was great
experience. It's been great. Yeah.
I'm so glad take two. I'm glad that we could just sit and chat and catch up, and it's lovely to see your face.
Yeah, you too.
All right, I'm going to pause the recording, but we can keep talking. Thank you so much for listening to the Art Versations podcast. If you like what you heard, the best way to help the podcast is to subscribe or follow on your preferred podcast platform and leave a review. As well, follow the podcast on Instagram at artversationsPod. You'll find photos of each of my guests so you can match a voice to a face, and highlight clips from each episode. Let's keep the conversation going. Send in a DM with your own thoughts about art, as well as any questions you think I should ask my guests. The podcast community continues to grow, and that is all because of you, listener. All bodies are dancer bodies, and all lives can't matter until Black Lives Matter. Till next time.
My name is Broadway Classic.
Let's hear it.